All right. Hello, everybody. How's it going? And welcome to this fun special video that I had planned. Basically, you know what this is about. This is a video of my personal top 15 active fighters in the UFC right now. 2022 was my first full year of being in the UFC. And now, since that's been completed, why not start off 2023, kind of speaking into existence, putting in the air my current top 15 active fighters right now. So yeah, I mean, I have kind of a fan rankings right here. Once again, to clarify, this is not my personal pound for pound rankings, but just rather my own personal favorites. Uh, if you have any fighters that you want to talk about and that you believe are your favorites, go ahead and leave them down below. Your top 5, top 10, top 15 favorites across each division. You know, I know that my list is not going to look like yours, and that's kind of the beauty of the sport. There's so many fighters and so many different fighting styles, as well as how the sport changes and such. Not one person's favorite list is going to look the same as the other. So we're going to go into this right now. This is going to be in relative order, not in super strict order, because once again, the game changes so much. I kind of have my notes down here. 10 through 15 can be relatively interchangeable or replaced with other fighters who won't even make this list. But for right now, at number 15, who am I going with? Number 15, I'm going to go with Robert Whitaker. Once it loads. There we go. Robert Whitaker. Middleweight, honestly, one of the best middleweights of all time. This dude's got a really stacked resume. I mean, this dude's gone toe to toe with Yoel Romero twice. Let's see, who else has he beaten? He easily dismantled Martin Vettori in his last fight. Jared Cannonier, Kevin Gastelum, Darren Till, just to name a few. This dude's got an awesome resume. He's a decision maker for sure. He's not a big finisher, but the dude is an example of one of those fighters that's just very entertaining just because he's so good. Great IQ, great speed. Most fighters know about his 1-2 combo, his 1-2 head kick combo. We just can't stop it. This guy is just that good. And I could go into more detail, but don't want to spend too much time on 15 through 11. But the Robert Whitaker, I do like Robert Whitaker. He's probably my favorite in the middleweight division. Actually, I think he might be my only middleweight fighter in my top 15. Yep, he is my favorite middleweight fighter. There you have it. Next up at number 14, started typing him earlier, and I decided to type him now. Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler has been such an awesome signing from the UFC. The dude said he's here not for a long time, but a good time. And man, a good time we have had with Michael Chandler for about the 2-3 years since we've had him. Like, yeah, 2-3 years. Dude only has ever turned in entertaining fights, and even if the fights don't go that long, still entertaining performances. This dude is awesome, really tough. He starts off fast and strong, however long he lasts before he cashes out. But I mean, I don't even need to go into detail. Just name his fights. Every single fight has an awesome performance, or just fight over on the UFC. Dan Hooker, Tony Ferguson, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, and recently Dustin Poirier. Like, this dude is freaking awesome, and I'll always tune into his next fight. Can't really go wrong. And oh my goodness, best of luck to him this year for against Conor McGregor. He is fighting Conor McGregor on his return fight. And honestly, if Conor McGregor's return wasn't happening at welterweight, Michael Chandler was the fight to pick. So best of luck to him. Who do I have next? The first women fighter on this list, Weili Zhang. Ooh. Oh, this is men's pound for pound rankings. Okay, so if this was women, I can't do men's and women's. I can't combine their rankings together. But at least just know that that Weili Zhang and Aaron Blanchfield would be in my top 15 fighters of all kind. But I guess this is men's, so I guess we could. No worries. We could go with Chris Barnett. We can go with Chris Barnett instead. This dude had one of my favorite fights. Ooh, I'd probably put him right here. Yeah, this dude had one of my favorite fights last year, as you know, against Jake Collier. I mean, how could you not like this guy? The dude's got so much heart. The dude is exciting. He has a lot of energy. He's just this explosive and fun heavyweight, and I just can't not root for him. And to not see him perform that front flip right at the end of his fights that he wins, you can't get enough of this guy. Okay, this might mess up. So if I take out 2 women fighters, then that means I have to add someone else too. I'm gonna go with Petr Yan. Tough year. 2022 was a tough year for Petr Yan. The losing end of 2 split decisions, but I won't go into too much detail. This is, we want to really get into the top 10. So I'll just say the dude is smart. I mean, the dude is a smart, calculative striker. Love enjoying his fights, and I'll continue tuning in. Is he overrated? After that Sean O'Malley performance, I don't know. I think that just shows that fight just showed that Sean O'Malley deserved to be at the top. It was still a very close fight. Fan of Piotr Jan. I'm a fan of Piotr Jan. Once again, MMA is a crazy thing. To go from undisputed champion to, 2-fight losing skid. Yeah, MMA sure is interesting. So next, we're gonna go with heavyweight. I believe the last heavyweight on this list, other than Chris Barnett, is Tai Tuivasa. This dude's awesome. I mean, such. Where would I put him? I think I low-key might put him definitely above Robert Whittaker. Yeah, maybe we'll have that for now. Tai Tuivasa, awesome character, super fun. He just seems like a cool guy to be around. You go on his social media and he's hanging out with a bunch of UFC fighters. He's got a lot of heart. He's got a lot of toughness. And he has this kind of dad power that kind of just comes out of nowhere at times. His fight against Cyril Gane, one of the best fights of the year, of 2022. His performance against Darius Lewis, awesome. And who could not like a guy who knocked out Greg Hardy flat on his back? So Tai Tuivasa, don't even talk about that much. Love the guy. Okay, so now we're entering the top 10 category. Let me make sure I have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, I do. So next up is the first featherweight on this list, Yair Rodriguez. The dude is such an entertaining striker. If you see, maybe I'll put him below Chandler for right now. Like I said, this isn't strict order. It's relative order, kind of as I go along. Not completely set in stone for the most part, especially kind of most of my top 15, right? But anyways, if to those who've seen his last performance against Josh Emmett, the dude looked on fire. I mean, him throwing out kicks, left and right, very defensively responsible. Even though he hasn't been the most active, recently, his fight against Max Holloway, Rodriguez lost almost every single round of that fight, but the numbers don't tell the full story. That fight was close the entire time. He gave Max Holloway a tough fight. He has such a diverse and varied striking arsenal. The dude is, you're going to hear me say this about pretty much every fight on this list. Always entertaining. And best of luck to him against his eventual fight against Volkanovski, because he might freaking need it. But really entertaining dude. Hard to not get behind him. Next up, we got a flyweight. First flyweight on this list. The most one of, if not the most likable fighter on the roster, and that is Brandon Moreno. The reason why I like this guy, I've already said it. This dude is easily one of the most likable people on the roster. It is hard to get behind. It's hard to not get behind his, growing skill set and his impeccable heart, man. This dude had 4 awesome fights against Davison Figueiredo. Obviously one of the biggest fighters in the flyweight division, since Demetrius Johnson, right? And yeah, I look forward to watching this guy fight more. Anything different that I could say about Brandon Moreno? Well, still young, so well, I guess some of you guys are still young too. Oh, yeah, maybe nothing different. This is my opinion, and I don't think I'd be surprised to any of you guys when all my top favorite fighters are people that I find very entertaining and likable. And Brandon Moreno can't really get much more likable and entertaining than that. Next up is the next lightweight on this list. I got Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje has just a fun fighting style. Even though he does come from a pretty accomplished wrestling background, the dude is not really incorporating much into his fights. The dude is aggressive. Justin Gaethje is aggressive. He knows how to deal a lot of damage to all his fighters. He's tough as well. He's got the toughness to go to wars. Look at his resume. His war against Eddie Alvarez, fight against Michael Chandler. He went leg kick for leg kick against Edson Barbosa. His fight against Dustin Poirier, Tony Ferguson. The dude, just knows how to deal a lot of damage to people. And he has the toughness to go for a long time. I've always, it's always fun to have a Justin Gaethje fight. Always. Always look forward to his fights. And anything else I gotta say? Yeah, let's just move on. Next up, we have another flyweight. I believe the last flyweight on this list. He's my highest unranked fighter on my personal top 15 ranking, and that's Tatsuro Taira. As of right now, he is unranked. I hope that changes soon. Whereas Brandon Moreno, I love flyweights. You know what I mean? They're the fight class that I would fight in if I were in combat sports, or specifically MMA. And also another thing that gets me invested in Taira is that he's Asian. For one, he's an Asian fighter. We haven't seen that as much in the UFC as maybe one might think. and he's my age. He just turned 23, and here he is. 13-0, I believe. Touted prospect and might be a big problem for the division. When I heard about his debut, before his debut fight, I was very excited to watch the guy fight, and since then, his 3 fights in the UFC so far, he has just nailed it every single time. Great performances. I look forward to watching this guy fight more, and hopefully we'll see him ranked soon. Great jiu-jitsu. He does hold up well on the feet, but yeah, he's going to be an interesting matchup for a lot of fighters, and I think that's why I find him so entertaining. Want him to build a little bit more before being thrown to the wolves, but I'm here for it. I am here for it. He's active, so maybe we'll see a ranking by the end of this year, sometime next year. Next up, okay, we have none other. Let's see, what number are we at now? Number 10? Number 9? Let's see if this loads. You already know what it is. Alexander Volkanovski, man. This dude is great. I mean, what can you not say about this guy? If pound for pound matters to you, then Alexander Volkanovski is my personal number 1 pound for pound fighter in the UFC right now. The dude is such a smart, calculated striker, very efficient with his strikes. He's got a lot of speed, great countering. Despite him being, pretty short, right? He's my height, right? But he fights nothing but taller and bigger guys, and he pulls through every single time. You know what I mean? And if me personally, I was already sold for him as my number 1 pound for pound after he 50-45 Max Holloway in last July. But after that fight against Islam Makhachev, win or lose, that dude, in my opinion, proved that he is number 1 pound for pound. I mean, you can't really get a better explanation than that. Decision maker, but who cares, right? Who cares when he's turning in these great performances, right? Alexander Volkanovski, man. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think that's a good thing to leave off of. Next up, we have the last bantamweight on this list, Chito Vera. Yeah, I like this guy. His main event against Rob Font last year was one of the first full cards that I turned into. And I do have Tatsuro Taira to credit for that. I believe Tatsuro Taira was on this main card in which when Vera fought Font. So that was the first, full card that I watched all the way through. And I like this guy's fighting style. This dude is very tough. He's got a lot of durability. He's a very smart striker. And even if fighters such as, like last year, Dominic Cruz or Rob Font pulled ahead maybe on the scorecards, he's got the toughness and the IQ to kind of come back in the end. The dude is an entertaining fighter, most accomplished finisher at bantamweight, or maybe TKO knockout finisher at bantamweight, I believe. A problem in this division, but bantamweight is like shark-infested waters of a division. So I wish the best of luck to him. Hopefully, there's a title shot soon. He does have a pretty decent obstacle ahead of him in Corey Sandhagen, I think, next month as of this recording. But best of luck to him, and I hope to see him in a championship fight soon. Really like this guy, entertaining fighter, super likable. Chito Vera. Next up, a man at lightweight who needs no introduction, the most accomplished finisher in UFC history, and even then, also the most accomplished submission artist in UFC history, Charles Oliveira. As far as finishers go, I mean, finishers are pretty much always entertaining in UFC. We love to see finishes. So what better fighter to look at their resume for than the most accomplished fighter in that category, Charles Oliveira. I mean, awesome jiu-jitsu. He nails in the submissions. Great heart. His championship reign, as even though it lasted only about 2-3 fights. Officially 2 fights, but even after his Justin Gaethje fight, he's been met with nothing but opposition, but he's pulled through every single time. A pretty complete fighter because he has some pretty good striking as well, as demonstrated in the Justin Gaethje fight. Lots of heart, an awesome resume. Once again, how could you not like Charles Oliveira? Let's see, 2. So 1, 2, 3. I have 3 fighters left. Do I have enough for them all? Yes, I do. I can't really go into too much detail about Charles Oliveira. Why people like him. The dude is just an entertaining fighter. He's always going for the finish. He rarely has a decision in the UFC. Whether it's win or lose, it's finish or be finished. So that when you're watching a Charles Oliveira fight, you're gonna have a good time. You're gonna have a good time. And wish the best of luck to him. Lightweight's a tough division. I'm still gonna pull for him. And Charles Du Bronx Oliveira. Next up, And number 3, who's my number 3? My third favorite fighter of all time. Probably third. Once again, this isn't strictly ordered. But I have to pick the number 3rd. It'd be my favorite featherweight fighter. Yes, none other than Max Holloway. Max Holloway has such a fun fighting style. He has great cardio that allows him to be a very high volume striker. He's a great striker, so adding high volume on top of that makes him very entertaining and hard to deal with. And the dude has the chin to take the punishment and to go to war and to go for a long time. I think we combine all those aspects. He's probably one of the easiest fighters to become a fan of if you're just getting to the UFC. I mean, look at all of his performances leading up to his championship fights. Of course, his 2 championship fights against Jose Aldo, his awesome fight against Dustin Poirier, his 2 very competitive and entertaining fights against Volkanovski, his defenses against, once again, Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar, Brian Ortega too. I mean, the dude is just so likable. He's a savage, right? He is cold-blooded. Awesome chin. I mean, hey, those strikes might catch up to him at one point, but as of right now in this career, he has powered through a lot of the competition. You know what I mean? Before Alexander Volkanovski, he, something clicked with him, and he made a lot of the featherweight division look easy, at least during his reign, right? And then kind of leading up to it. So Max Holloway, super likable guy. Once again, even though, Alexander Volkanovski has proved to be better than him as of right now, Max Holloway is just such a beast. I mean, how could you not want to tune into any of his fights? Yair Rodriguez, low-key one of my favorite fights of all time. Against Yair Rodriguez. Awesome. Yeah, this guy does boast a few of my favorite fights of all time, right? At least 2. So, yeah, Max Holloway, man. He's going to return against Arnold Allen sometime this year, so wish the best of luck to him. Okay, who's my number 2? Who's my number 2 fighter? I've named a lot of prolific fighters on here. You might be thinking, oh, who's my number 2? Who's my number 2? Yuri Prochazka. Is Yuri Prochazka. It's kind of hard being a Yuri Prochazka fan, at least if you only heard about him in the UFC, because he hasn't been active at all in the UFC, fighting only once per year since his UFC debut. But the dude, I mean, I said this before, but is such an entertaining fighter. He's got to be like one of, if not the most entertaining fighter on this roster. I mean, not only is like super mysterious, right? He kind of gives me the impression that he was this man from the Czech Republic who somehow moved to Japan, like feudal Japan during the samurai times, got frozen in an iceberg, and then thawed out in present day, and then just took up MMA. Like, this dude is so mysterious. And of course, you can speak volumes about his fighting style. I mean, he has such high volume. He's a great striker, a Muay Thai background. He has a lot of these unorthodox strikes from these weird angles, a varied arsenal of strikes. He's mixing it up, level changing all the time, and he's got insane toughness, especially for a hard-hitting division like the light heavyweight division, the second heaviest division right now. And he still has the toughness to just keep moving forward no matter how much punishment he takes, and to go on and on and on and overwhelm his opponents. I love Yuri Prochazka. I love him. He is like a Mortal Kombat character brought to life or something like that. The closest thing to a real life Mortal Kombat character, if you want a fighter to get behind like that in the UFC, my pick is Yuri Prochazka. Probably my second favorite fighter as of right now. Once again, I would like for him to be more active, but at least in the case of 2022, it couldn't be helped given his injury. So yeah, look forward to getting back in the ring again. And don't care who he fights, throw him up against anybody. I am here, and it's going to be a banger. Now, last but not least, my number 1 favorite fighter in the UFC. This spot is definitely 100% cemented as of right now. I've mentioned him before. If you've tuned into my previous MMA videos, you know who this is because I haven't mentioned him yet. He's my favorite lightweight fighter of all time, as well as my favorite current active fighter in the UFC right now. That is none other than the Diamond himself, Dustin Poirier. I mean, the first thing I can say about him, if I already haven't said it, is that I do credit a few of his fights for being the fights that got me into MMA. Conor McGregor is a household name, as we all know, the biggest star in UFC, right? And hearing about his 3rd fight against Dustin Poirier, I was like, okay, this is very interesting. Tuned in, that was a disappointment, right? We all know how that ended by the end of the 2nd round. But then I went back and saw his 2nd fight against Conor McGregor. I'm like, wow, this guy's boxing is good. Went back and viewed his resume, and this dude just has banger after banger after banger. A fight against Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis, Eddie Alvarez, Max Holloway, Dan Hooker, which is arguably my favorite fight of all time in the UFC, Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira. Win or lose, this guy has only turned in awesome and entertaining fights. I love his boxing. I'm just so in love with his boxing. It's so crisp, it's clean, it's effective. He has great defense. He has a nice combination of chin, cardio, and power too that just adds to his entertainment value. I mean, not to like throw out a pun there, to throw out a pun right now, but his fights are really worth diamonds. It's really worth the diamond, right? Um, and I love his nickname. He's a diamond. You know, a diamond is made in the rough. And when this dude goes to war, right? When this dude is in, the pits of a fight, that's where he kind of can dig deep and really overcome a lot of his obstacles. And I'm invested every time he fights. Um, I always go back and rewatch his fights pretty much more often than any of these fighters here. Um, love this guy. And also, of course, the sentimental value of, he's why I'm into MMA right now. Or I guess, he's the active fighter. He's the biggest reason from an active fighter that I'm into UFC right now. There are other fighters who are no longer the UFC that I could credit, but as far as active goes, this dude's been fighting at the top for a long time now, and hopefully for a little bit longer. I'm going to cherish every moment of that. And these are my top 15 current favorite fighters in the UFC. Right here. Maybe we'll do this. Yeah. Now, of course, this could change. This is definitely subjected to change. Once again, the way that the sport moves is very interesting, as well as the order. But I think this is a good list to kind of speak into existence, for future videos. So yeah, once again, go ahead and leave your top favorite fighters down below. Any fighters that we have in common, any that you would add that I don't have, be sure to leave them down below. Mixed martial arts, best sport in the world. Catch you later.